Hello everyone, Jarl of Goats here, and I am with my co-host for this new channel, Juce. How's it going, Juce?
It's going pretty good. Really excited to do this.
I am too. We're gonna cut the intro short, but one thing I do want to point out, most of you are familiar with my channel. If not, go ahead and check it out. But Juce just started a new channel called Master the Game, and he's shown me some of his concepts for it, and I think it's going to be amazing. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to keep it pretty quick. Master the Game is going to be a channel that is about taking a game system and teaching people how to build characters in an optimized way to get the full extent of what they're good at out of the game. It's also going to teach game masters and dungeon masters how to combat that, how to come up with extremely difficult encounters, whether it's from puzzles or mixing and matching, monsters or whatever. It depends on the system. And we're going to start with Dungeons and Dragons. The first video should be out on November 9th. So we're obviously filming and recording before then.
All right, awesome. What I wanted to do with Fathers of Tabletop, and this is kind of a pet project of mine that Juice has had a big hand in, and he's definitely my partner in crime when it comes to this, is I was inspired because I belong to a very unique group of role players. And it seems like there's two types that you always hear about on the internet. The grognards, or, the old originals. They've been around since the late 80s playing this game, even 70s for a lot of the players I've been running into. They've played a very aggressive version of the game, and they tend to love it. And then you get a lot of the newer audience, and they've maybe have been playing since 3.5, since 4th edition, but you don't really hear a lot about people our age, where we're right in the middle. Like, I started playing D&D late in AD&D's life, and I remember seeing 3 when it hit the shelves and being like, this is amazing. But I'm not also one of those veterans that has been so sewn into the older versions of Dungeons and Dragons. And for me, most people don't realize that people our age have kids. So my role-playing atmosphere has changed entirely. And for the better in some aspects, but it's definitely harder to get into games or to learn about them. So this is why I started this. I wanted to really get into the aspect of we can still enjoy the hobby as dads, or have full-time jobs, or work on projects for all of those who aren't fathers, just having busy lives. So how do you squeeze your hobby into your busy life? And Juice, you definitely have a busy life.
I do. Oh gosh. I mean, you kind of touched on it. We're at that age. I'm 32. I've been gaming, loosely, and I use that term very loosely, since 97. I was about 12 years old. And I couldn't find good gaming groups. I started at Palladium Books, wasn't the most popular game system. Tried to get into D&D in high school. Every group I knew of was full, unfortunately. And I lost touch of that after high school. I went to community college, played some Palladium Books online, and it wasn't until a couple years before 5th edition came out, I decided to go and check out Adventurers League, or whatever it's called, D&D Encounters, and I tried the D&D Next playtest. That was a little bit after I had met my wife. My wife actually had D&D books that got me like, hey, I need to play D&D again. And we found out we were both into gaming, and I've talked about it on Nerdarchy, and maybe we'll go more in depth with that in a future episode, because I could talk about that for 20, 30 minutes. But we had a kid shortly after all that, back in 2011, before 5th edition came out. And so for me, most of my gaming in this, between the one-shot group and the other groups I've been in, Absolute Tabletop, Roll with Advantage, all that stuff has come after having kids for me. So it's been a lot to ask my wife, hey, it's Sunday night, I'm going to go play with the Provokers tonight for the next 4 hours. and, oh, hey, it's Wednesday night. I've scheduled my one-shot. I'm going to go play for a couple hours, you know? So luckily I have a gamer wife who understands. And the other aspect of that for me, because I know not everyone has a gamer wife, but the other side of it is that, you know, she's just supportive of all my things, all hobbies. You know, and nowadays I'm doing real estate. I've got 2.5 years experience in real estate. It's a very inconsistent job. It's not like you know, on Monday night, I might have a listing appointment, or Wednesday night, I might have to take buyers out looking at houses, you know, and it's a lot of times spur of the moment. So she kind of has to be flexible with that. So yeah, that's kind of that for me. And we have this podcast. I've got, you know, the YouTube channel. I've done YouTube before, you know, just tons of things. Plus I love sports. So my hobbies pull me in a lot of directions where I have to still consciously make an effort as a family person too. So I'm not always doing my hobbies, but it's always in the background somewhere.
Right. And you know what I've noticed too, when I was inspired to do this, you had mentioned ideas on what we should do for the first podcast. And I think the one that lit up to me the most was hot items coming out for the holiday season. And I think a lot of us are relatives of people who got us into the game. My dad is as much of a role-playing nerd as I am. And there are years that I think, God, what can I get him? Which is stupid. You know, I should know. Or what, my wife's a gamer too. And sometimes I'll go, God, what should I get her? And I'm thinking jewelry. And I forget that if there was a cool D&D book about elves or necromancy or something along those lines, that's what she wants. And I sat down.
Is your wife a gamer too?
Yeah, she is. Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, you're lucky too.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, lucky, yes. You find that when you have a gamer wife, you have to share a lot more, and that's not something I ever prepared for. But you know, now you understand why some families have 2 or 3 PS4s. But the thing that I notice the most is I don't even know what I want. I've never made a Christmas list. My wife's always like, "What do you want?" I don't know. Just give me a gift card for Steam. Who cares?
Oh, wow.
But now, like, when I took this venture on, I started seeing things that I thought, you know, that's the perfect price point for a dad. Because there's 2 types of gifts that I've been given as a dad, and I'm sure you could relate to this. There's the once in a while, oh my God, this gift is amazing. But then there's the little gifts, you know, it's kind of like a secret Santa for my wife and I. We don't spend a whole lot of money on each other. But the thought behind the gift is way amazing. So we've come up with some ideas for the holiday season that are essentials for anybody who doesn't have these to go out and ask for a gift or buy for a loved one who happens to also play Dungeons and Dragons. And honestly, my favorite thing is the cost of some of these. I could give my friends gifts if this is how much a lot of these items cost. So we came up with some ideas, combined them. Let's hit the first topic. The first topic is, or the first item that we came up with, which is on everybody's mind, Tome of Annihilation. It's you can get it on Steam, Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, which is rad because it comes with all the tokens, the maps, everything's pre-programmed in Roll20 if you pay for the pro version. But it's $49.95 regardless. Now, what was your initial impression on Tome of Annihilation? Like, why would you recommend this as the go-to for Christmas?
So, obviously, it's the hot module. You know, when 5th edition came out, it was Hoard of the Dragon Queen, you know? And throughout the time, they've had different modules that were the hot thing at the moment, you know? Like Storm King's Thunder was back in the spring this year, you know? For me, I'm playing in a group with DM Death. You can find his channel, Roll with Advantage, on YouTube. And I'm a player in that game. And my character actually just died in the Tomb of Annihilation, not in the tomb, but in the jungle, on the way to wherever we're going. And, you know, it's a good module so far. So far, I've enjoyed playing the random encounters, the different things we've had to go through, the interactions in the city and Port Town before we ended up going into the jungle. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give away anything about it, you know what I mean? But I do want to say I've had a lot of fun with it. It's something that by the time Christmas rolls around, I will probably have played a bit further into it, so I could, in theory, own the book and start running it for a new group.
Amazing.
So I'm very interested in getting this. It's definitely up there on my list.
I think what got me on it, what hooked me, was showing up at the port town. There's just so much lore to it as far as in depth. You feel like it's an ancient place. Even if you're one of those people that you're like, I'm not even impressed by that. Every D&D city that you come up to is like, it is an ancient place where tombs, the hoards of knowledge. But what's interesting about this place is the culture, right? It prevents the structure of a culture that we do not see in a lot of... I haven't seen this stuff since I've played other variants of Dungeons and Dragons, like Dark Sun and some of the other modules that take place in this kind of world. It's like a mix between a Middle Eastern environment, an Egyptian environment, and an African environment.
Yes.
And then you show up and there's people riding dinosaurs, lively stalls, flying guardsmen, a sacred turtle that protects the harp. Lots to do. This is one of those cities that would have been perfect for an MMO to be based around. And would just be so interesting. And then the enemies, they're not so bizarre that you're like, oh, this is really weird. You know, you come against your favorite enemies, like undead, but they're jungle-fied. And I'm not going to go into any more details like Juice. I don't want to do any spoilers, but this thing is beautiful. The artwork, everything about it is just amazing. So $49.95. You can get it on Amazon, Steam, Fantasy Grounds, Roll20. You can go to your local store and buy it, a hardcover copy. I always like to pick up the books and look at them and buy them personally, even if I know I'm already going to buy it. But that's just how nerdy I am. So yeah,
one more thing I want to add. One thing I want to add. All the modules I've played, I've got all of them for Curse of Strahd. I've read through most of them. The one thing I can say about this one compared to the others is the random encounters and the wilderness exploration aspect of the game flows really well in this module.
You think of going into the frozen wastes to fight ice giants, and you would think that survival in the wilderness would be one of the key component. Like, this is important. It didn't seem important. And that really bothered me. So, Tomb of Annihilation took me by surprise. If you wanted that classic British guy with a machete going and looking for treasure and say, screw the rest of the adventure hooks, I just want to go have fun out in the jungles, the survival tools that they give you as far as scenes, food, water sources, being able to survive, what kind of disease, all of that is amazing. Next thing on our list is the Tomb of Annihilation miniatures from WizKids. Now, in your opinion, are these better than some of the ones that we've seen for 5th edition and even 3.5? Well, sorry about that, folks. My internet took a dump because the kitten unplugged the router, but we're back. And Juice was just making his comments on the Tomb of Annihilation minis.
So the Tomb of Annihilation miniatures, if I want the module, because I'm a miniature gamer, I need to get the miniatures. I actually do not have really good miniatures that would represent any type of encounters other than the undead, possibly, for Tomb of Annihilation. So you got to get the miniatures. Now, from what I've seen of the miniatures, there's a website you can go to that'll show you all the miniatures from Pathfinder, D&D, so on and so forth. Just type in, Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, and it should come up on Google. But it tells you the rarity level and shows you the assortments. Now, I have not gotten a box of this set. However, I've gotten a box of all the previous sets. For example, I've got plenty of dragons from that. I've got elementals. Some of the downsides to the past ones was you get too many dragons in the first one, not enough cultists, not enough of the other things you're going to encounter in the module. And that's kind of been a reoccurring theme in a lot of them. For example, I didn't get any Aarakocra in any of the first few sets. And there's modules that have come out where that's in there. So there's things like that. But this set, I think, will do a much better job of that, unless, and this isn't really a big surprise, but Acerak is on the cover. I hope I'm saying that right. He is a miniature in there, but he's a rare one, so there's a good chance if you don't buy a full set of miniatures that you won't get him. So you just have to improvise with some other miniature. But me, huge miniature gamer, so I love everything from Reaper Bones all the way up to the WizKids line, and I'm excited to get some Tomb of Annihilation miniatures before Christmas.
Now, the Christmas pricing on those at most places is $15.99 a box, or you could get the 8 booster packs for $127.92 at most places, and they'll come pre-sealed in a big brick. So that is a good way. You don't really, I did the math, you don't really save that much money. No. I think it's just for convenience. But
if
it's
you buy
still
the big
$5.
One, if you even go bigger than that, if you get the full set, you usually get a special, the one-off miniature that comes with it. For example, in the dragon one, it was a large, actually, I think it was a giant brass dragon or something like that. Maybe it was copper. Can't remember exactly. I think it was brass. This one, I can't remember what it is, but yeah, you'll get whatever the big thing is. I think it actually might be dungeon dressing for this one. And then on top of that, it's $300 and you get, I want to say 4 of the 8 packs.
Yeah.
So you're almost guaranteed to get every single miniature in the line if you buy the full behemoth set.
Yeah, and even then that's not that bad, because when you're thinking about 4 of those 8 packs, that retail is about $600 even if you buy them in 8 packs. So it's good to see that you can go other ways around it. Now, some of the other things, item number 3 on our Christmas list is related to 4 and 5. This was something Juce showed me that I smacked my head and wondered why I didn't know about it. But the Kobold Guide to World Building, which you could buy paperback for $19.99, or you can get and that does come with the PDF as well, or you could just get the PDF for $9.99.
Yes. First of all, Kobold Publishing is a fantastic company. I mean, if you go to their website, they've got tons of products for Pathfinder, 5th edition, and then also, like this one, is a neutral, doesn't matter what system. It's really good.
What I like about it, anytime I'm going for GM advice, and I've been a GM for years, but sometimes you just get a brain fart in the creative lineup, and you just got to go fix it. And anytime I go out to fix it, and I end up going to, let's say, one of the group pages on Facebook or a big blog, somebody will give some really sound advice, right? And it's a couple paragraphs. And then a discussion ensues and you get lost in it. Some people make a really awesome, like, social media video, but they're only like 6-7 minutes long. And sometimes you want to know more. What's interesting about these books is they come with structured essays. Essays that cover the point front to back from all of the leading designers that help on the project. And they all give you different tools. I would say you could go through this and go, I don't like that very much. But then there's other tools that the other authors give you to achieve the same effect, just going a different creative route. And it's fantastic. And I think, honestly, the world building, they give you some images and some descriptors so that no matter what kind of fantasy or sci-fi that you're in, that you can have, natural environments. It gives you ideas on cities and how they function. But when they say
magic,
world building,
how it works.
Right. When they say world building,
everything.
They don't mean the physical world. They mean your entire setting. It's like a setting builder, which is amazing. But it follows up with number 4, which is the Kobold's Guide to Game Mastering. And the reason why I put that one at number 4 is because a lot of the authors in it are the same. And if you look at the world building book, is okay, this is going to help me come up with some ideas and point me in a direction. And then the game mastering book is going to help me do this and learn how to do this and operate it and what to expect. And it's the same price, $19.99 for the paperback and PDF, or $9.99 for the PDF. What is your thought on any kind of game mastering guide? I'm a little picky. How did you feel about this one in particular?
So I've never bought a book on how to DM or anything other than the stuff for specific game lines. For example, Pathfinder's Game Mastery Guide has been probably my favorite I've ever bought in regards to getting advice on how to run a game, right? The tables in it are great. I mean, everything in it is great. This is the Kobold Guide to World Building I've looked at in person before. And the information that I gleamed over in the 30 minutes I probably looked at this book was amazing. And I've looked at reviews for it. It's something that's actually been on my list for about 3 years now. This isn't a new product by any means. I'm very interested in picking up the physical copy of this. The thing that I think is interesting about it is it talks about, building either small and then building outward, some of the similar stuff you've heard other people say. But it also has things in there about like how the magic works, how the religions in your world work. Like that book right there is going to help you come up with your own world, your own setting that's going to feel like its own thing. It's not going to feel like Forgotten Realms 2.0. You know what I mean? It's going to be your own thing with its own stamp. That's what's exciting about that. The game mastering one is, I think, for me, it's a book that I'm interested in because I know I'm not the best game master out there. I think that I have my strengths and my weaknesses, and a book like that, I think, will help me focus in on where my weaknesses are. So if that's something I wake up on Christmas Day and Santa Claus put it right there, I'm going to read that book through. And then I'm going to reread just the specific sections, and just try to get better at certain things. So that's what I'm most excited about with that. It's just improving in general. And I said before that I have never bought game mastery guides that have helped before. I take that back. There was Mike Shea. He's also known as Sly Flourish. He has the Lazy Dungeon Master book. I think it's like $10. Dungeon Master Tips and something else. He's got 3 books that I actually bought by him. They're great books. They're really small, quick, easy reads. And there's a lot of good stuff in there too. Now, doesn't work for everybody, but his stuff I do like for certain things.
Yeah. And, I think the important thing to take away from this as far as Christmas goes is that for those of us dads who are getting our kids into Dungeons and Dragons, or we know of a younger friend or family member that has played in one of our games and just goes, hey, I really want to run this, or a friend that says, I want a GM, but I don't have the confidence to. These aren't just good Christmas gifts for us. These are great Christmas gifts for them. The world building, the Dungeon Master Guide, it's perfect. And that actually leads what I thought into for the third one, which I think everybody should get. And that's the Kobold Guide to Plots and Campaigns. They give you, I think, one of the best advice that I had ever gotten from it is their brief discussion. The way that they describe it is not to overwhelm the party with a world setting, not to throw them into the plot super deep at first, because not only is it hard as a management on your end, but, it may feel, and this is in my words, a bit railroady for the party.
Right.
So what's really cool about Plots and Campaigns is they teach you how to build a campaign out of mini plots with an overarching plot, how to plug in, how to use adventure hooks, so that it doesn't feel like you're playing an MMO where it's like, deliver this letter to this guy for no apparent reason, or go get this back from that duck that took my lunch. It doesn't feel like there's unnecessary things. However, they do teach you how to put the mundane stuff in without getting in the way of the plot, so that the players still have some clear direction on where they want to go, but they have the freedom to role play and explore.
Right. And I mean, doesn't that kind of go hand in hand with the game mastering guide? I mean, they're the game mastering one. I think that one, they're both going to tell you similar things and probably tell you different ways to do it. But I think there's a lot of overlap there that's going to be good for people too.
Absolutely. And I use a laptop when I game. And what I love about the 3 books here is you can get all 3 of them for $60. That's just $10 more than one of the new Wizards of the Coast books that you can get. I think it does provide you with more Like, you'll be able to use this for Dungeons and Dragons, Stars Without Number, Fantasy Flight. It's theory. It teaches you theory and good practices. So for starting GMs, it's great. For GMs who feel that they could use some improvement, and I think we all feel that way, even people we see as the best GMs feel that way, definitely good to have in your pocket. Now, for someone like my wife who goes, I wanted to get him a couple of things. I don't want to just spend $60 on this. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to get him much more. I have a laptop when I game, and I'm okay with just PDFs. You can get all 3 PDFs for $30, the price of 2 with paperbacks. It's a great deal. It's an entire setup. And then one of the other items that we talked about that I find really interesting because I struggle with one-shots. I don't know if you do. I'm a campaign guy.
No. Isn't a campaign just a string of one-shots anyway? You're just tying them together sometimes?
I do agree with that. And there's two sides of it. There's and I've noticed this, and I'm not trying to downplay it or, make anyone upset who's having the same struggles as I am, but I've noticed something. Let's take a step back from Facebook and all of our opinions aside and just look at the arguments that occur where one side's like, one-shots are easy to run. I don't understand, because they don't. They're like, isn't a campaign a series of one-shots? I feel that side is just face-palming hard. Whereas the other side, they want to invest in characters. They want to invest in a fun telling, like long campaign, a long story. They want to go over years of these characters' lives, which is great. But those are the hardest games to find reliable players for. They are the hardest games to schedule consistently. I
don't agree. One-shots, you mean?
No, campaigns.
Okay.
I'm talking campaigns. Sorry. There. When you when you want to go characters and all of their lives, it's hard to find players. It's hard to find. I mean, it's a trust, and I don't do one-shots, so I don't have the advantage of doing a one-shot and finding out who I would be compatible with.
Well, if you're doing a campaign, right? You're saying you want to do a long campaign. You're talking about years of our lives to run some campaigns. Right. Like, it could be 2-3 years. I don't know about you, but if I look back to a year ago compared to now, my life is completely different. If I look 3 years ago, where I'm at is completely different. I've switched careers. I've moved twice. Like, just so many things happen. So it's hard to keep a campaign going for a long period of time. Now, the thing about
attest to that.
Yeah, and us, right, as fathers, as the fathers of tabletop here, this book, if you have a campaign this weekend and you didn't have time to prep something, boom, you pull something out of the One-Shot Adventure book that's applicable to the level, or maybe you disregard the level and you just find something that applies and tone the monsters up and down in the encounters. Now you don't have to worry about going into a session unprepped. You've got it all right there in this book. And the nice thing about this, and I will say this, Kobold Guide has a book of layers that I had bought a while back for myself. My wife DMs one of our campaigns, and she has used a couple of the layers out of that spur of the moment, and it's went wonderfully. So yeah. That's why I
appreciate these books too, because I'm used to, when I started Dungeons, here comes back in my day, Lankmar was the first campaign I played. I don't know if you know Lankmar, all right?
I've never played it, I've heard of it.
It is like the Coruscant of D&D. There's just so much to do that you're playing this huge overarching campaign where you're invested in the survival of the city, and it really is just a series of one-shots, though. I mean, a lot of the plots are interconnected, but at the same time, it's the ability to go, I want to continue with these players. That's great. I think the OneShot Adventures book is a great guide for me to use. I want to play a game, but I don't have a dedicated crew at the moment. I don't have a good schedule. I just want to play. My heart's bleeding for it. Bam. And the other thing I like about this book is some people like to run seriously dark, grim campaigns. Some people like to run the outside goofy. And in this campaign, there's an adventure in it about a bunch of aliens that come down and abduct people to drain them of their ethereal magics. It's bizarre. But then there's another really good one where it's, goblin bandits, let's give them steroids. You find out that in the absence of wagons throughout the winter, a giant goblin fortress was erected on this main causeway. And it cannot be ignored. That's awesome. Because no matter how, if you're doing something goofy, even if you're doing sci-fi and you're like, well, I like the idea of aliens abducting people and draining them maybe for some energy. Ooh, that's how they're powering their ships. Boom. One shot.
Right.
Great. The other one is there's a sequel to it. Prepared 2. Now, Prepared 1 is $14.99 for paperback and PDF, $5.99 for just the PDF. Prepared 2 is a little different pricing, but here's the reason why. It's got a little more to it. It's actually $19.99 for the paperback and PDF, $5.99 for the PDF, and then it has a map standalone that's $3.99, which is awesome. So they give you maps and imagery. It was almost like, people love this, let's give them a better product. And that's what I really like about them. And those one-shots are a little more toned down than aliens abducting people. They seem to be a little more focused, but they're also more broad so that they can fit almost any campaign setting. They give you suggestions, too, on how to swap certain themes or monsters out. And I really enjoyed it.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Everything you said. It's for me, it would just be so I could insert it with little to no prep that weekend or that night. Because as a dad, stuff happens. Whether it's kid's sick, so now I had to call off of work, but I got to make it up in my own time, and or whatever. So yeah, having that, something you can just plug and play is always awesome.
The other thing I like about it is throw it in your D&D stuff. Take it with you. Every live game you go to, if you're a player, toss it in there. Because if your DM gets stuck in traffic, has to work late, everybody's ready to play, but one person cancels, like let's say it's a key player, pull the book out and go, fellas, we can still have fun. Because as a dad, when I dedicate role-playing time and I find a day to do it and it gets canceled, that is the most destructive thing to my morale ever. Because I don't get to play very often. I mean, it's like, and then I mope around the house and my wife makes fun of me. So let's avoid my wife ridiculing me, and hun, get me that. That would be amazing.
Yeah, get me that too, hun. So you can use it and I can use it.
Exactly. The next one I'm excited for. Xanathars.
Yeah, this is my number one.
Everything. Number one, hands down.
This is number one.
Let's go over the pricing first, because Volos, when it released, they had a limited edition cover that you could go buy in stores. I thought it was uglier than the book, but I love the 5th edition art style. However, this one looks rad.
I have it.
It uses a lot of symbology. It's kind of like I call it the stained glass art style. Like, you could almost imagine it as a stained glass window. Looks great. And it uses a lot of abstract art to represent the beholder that's on the cover. But it's $49.95 for the standard. Limited edition, you have to go in and buy in the stores. It's not a price difference from what I heard. But I also know card shops are different on how they do pricing. Yeah, it's just in some core stores, they are selling it for $49.95.
Yeah, and it's so it'll be released. The actual book's released the 21st, I think, and the 10th is when the special edition comes out.
Right.
But
there's some small mom and pa ones that are going to hike up the cost, only because they got so few of them. And I agree. Part of the reason why they do that, though, and this is interesting to think about, I have a mom and pa shop that's out here in the rural country, right? And it has a dedicated fan base. They will rise the price on their limited edition books by $10. But here's the reason why. A lot of people go, ooh, we live in a rural area. We do not have access to much. I have to drive 50 minutes to the nearest game shop, or I can go 20 minutes to this one.
Sure. The
problem
like you said before,
if
you're a PDF guy too.
Right. But if it's the same price, right? Because I have all the 3.5 leather editions. Those are what I like to collect. But for the same price, the problem that they were having is people from the city would go, I'm not going to wait in a line. We're going to go out to this shop in the sticks and we're going to buy it. So people who aren't even regular customers will trek out to the shop in the sticks so that they don't have to wait in line and they know they have a copy. Buy it at regular price. And then the locals who support that local business are like, what the hell? And for us, we'd rather pay $10 extra to get guarantee that we might have a chance to it, as opposed to spending all that money in gas to go down there, deal with the lines and traffic. So I understand why it's done. However, this time, not the case. You know, it's not going to be like that. A lot of the core hobby retailers are being encouraged just to keep it with the market norm. And the amazing thing about this book, too, is I got to look at the an image of the table or the gallery online. I had very little interest in this until I saw that gallery and saw everything that was in this book. And I said, oh my God, this is the Dungeon Master's Guide 2, without having a rehash of 3-5 days.
So I've been following all the Unearthed Arcana. I've been downloading them since the day they came out. I downloaded the free PDF for D&D Basic from Wizards of the Coast. So I've been following the playtesting of everything for the most part in this book. There's things that are new that weren't playtested, but so I've been excited for a lot of this stuff for a long time. I watched the flip through on Nerdarchy. In fact, I think I watched it twice. I watched a couple other previews because there's some YouTubers and other people who have received early edition copies to do coverage on. And this book, you know, I was excited hearing all the stuff from Merles and the other guys over there leading up to the release, and seeing these actual physical, like you're saying, you looked at a picture of the glossary. I've seen that. But for me, seeing the physical books and hearing them talk about what's on the pages and seeing previews of the pages has me so ecstatic for this book. There's classes I want to try. The Ranger Monster Hunter I really want to dig into. You know, some of the racial feats sound amazing. Just so many things. Like, there is a subclass for every single class in this book. There's new spells. There's new feats. There's racial feats. There's DMing tips. There's extra things on like how to handle tool proficiencies. One of the worst things about 5th edition when it came out was tool proficiencies. And the reason I say that is nobody had a single clue how to use them. And I feel like still most people don't know how to use them. I think this book is going to clear that up for people, and I'm hoping it makes it make sense. So until I actually read that section, but there's so much in this book that, you know, I wish they would have released it with the PHB when it first came out. You know, so I'm excited. I'm dying for this one.
Yeah, there's parts in the PHB that should have been in a DM's guide and parts of the DM's guide that should have been in the PHB. You know, there's a lot of times I'm like, but it seems like this book is going to bridge the gap between what was missing from both. And I really, sure. I mean, even just the character's daily livelihood, they go into really good detail on that. And it's like, you know, that's awesome because it offers you filler. If you've got a quest that seems kind of bland, and that's what I love about it is, oh, we have to go find the missing wagon. Yay, we're probably going to get there, fight a bunch of creatures, find out everyone's dead, and come back to town. But Zanna Thars gives you material to fluff the world up so that it's a different experience. Like, would you think going out and getting a wagon in the desert is as visually and intriguingly stimulating as going and finding that one that was stuck in the jungles of Schult? You know what I mean? Like, there's some level of brilliance to just adding more stuff. And even in the desert, you might go, well, that's not fair. That's what a desert's supposed to be like. It seems like this book's going to touch on how you can liven up the small stuff. And that's one of the things I'm excited about.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. Like, I don't think I'm going to make it till Christmas. Like, that book will be in my hands before Christmas.
I'm thinking about raiding my money jar, like my gift money jar that my wife hides in the room unsuccessfully. The last one she had, I hid under my Stormtrooper helmet and she drained it. But basically, what I'm going to do is steal money from that, buy it, and probably go, thanks for the Christmas present. But that one's the only one I'm going to cheat on.
I might just Sharpie a cardboard box and stand by the highway. Need money for Zanna Thars, guys. Yeah, kick all the homeless people over the overpass so that you don't have any competition. Sure. Absolutely. So these are 2 items I found after you and I had discussed, and I would love to go over them with you. You could even look them online and see what you think. Everybody's trying to find a solution to a customizable DM screen. And I remember being at a Sherry's restaurant, which is a lot like Denny's for people who don't have Sherry's in their states. And I'm thinking, wow, this menu is the perfect material for a customizable DM screen.
It's a shame it's so tall. And I looked up menus, but usually they've got pages like a book. Doesn't really work for GM screen. I found one.
I've done the same thing.
Getting excellent reviews, built out of the same material. It's called the Master's Tome 4-panel customizable GM screen. Now, it comes in 4 colors, gold, black, red, and green, so you have some customization. You can get it from places like Staples or even Amazon. So you can get it everywhere. It's readily available. This thing is amazing. It comes with 4 pieces of paper that is the standard DM screen, but it's well laid out. The font is so pleasant to look at, and you don't find yourself going, where is this shit? You know, like, well, I know this table's somewhere around here. It's very clear where to find the items. They use pictures and icons. That's awesome. But then you can slide whatever you want inside the panels. It's completely customizable. The vinyl is the thick vinyl that you find on those menus, which allows you to write on it with a wet erase marker and then go whoop. So you could make notes like, here's a town. I'm going to ask the players what they describe in the town. I'm going to write that down, or people they meet. Like, you can actually make an NPC sheet and fill it out as you go on the GM screen, which is amazing. And it's simple.
Now, it looks like it comes in the vertical style, so about 11 inches tall. Does it come with the 8-inch tall?
I think
like
that is... I don't
portrait?
know if it's well, it comes portrait, which is the 11. I don't think it comes landscape. Yeah. That is one thing I would prefer. When 4th edition released their lower DM screen, I was ripping my hair out with joy. Like, it just finally, I don't have to peer over. The worst one was Hero's Quest, where the wizard in the middle was just like, it's my higher. Players. Yeah, it's like, why did they do that? But I do appreciate the fact. Yeah. I do appreciate the fact that this one, the 4th edition one, was lower. This one's not, but I understand why. The whole point is being able to print. And a lot of people out there who GM and who play are not tech savvy. Believe it or not, most people assume online gaming industry's taken off. That must mean that everybody who plays in an online game is really comfortable with computers. That is not the case. For some people, that's their biggest obstacle into only playing rarely. So I like the fact that you could just go print, call it good.
Right. See, and I'm avoiding the tech craze, like the PDFs and PDF readers and all that. I avoid that stuff. The funny thing is, 5th edition, I bought both the DM screens, and they're both landscape. Like, I love both of them. But, like, so Pathfinder, I started trying to get into that before 5th edition came out, and the biggest turnoff was the DM screen being portrait and not landscape. Yeah. Hated it. Absolutely hated it.
That's what I hate about 3.5.
Yeah.
When 3.5 released their beautiful... Yeah, right when Dungeon Tiles came out and they released the advanced, they were like, we're going to come out with the advanced GM screen and we're going to fix everything you complained about. I was like, oh, goody, because according to the forums, everybody's been complaining that it's not landscape. Reserved it, went to pick it up. Now it's like, what the hell? And before people go, why didn't you Google it? Dude, this was back in 2003, okay? You didn't find much when you Googled it, you know? A lot of people think that once like 1999 hit, you could Google everything. Google really wasn't that big back then. They were just starting out. I remember looking like Audi transmission fluid, and porn would be the first thing that popped up, and you'd have to cycle. That doesn't happen anymore because it's refined. But absolutely, that DM screen I think is a must, especially since it's just $19.99. For the DM on the go, it's like, here, man, it's inexpensive. You'll get a lot of uses out of it. And even if you don't use it as a DM screen, you could even put it to the side to have all of your other notes that you don't need to readily access. I would use it as an image portfolio. So I've got my lower DM screen from 5th edition that I love so much, but then all of my images, I could put file tabs on them and just stick them off to the side so that I could grab them instead of having my right in front of me covered in papers, because I'm like a crazy old man when it comes to getting lost in paperwork. But
so this last one you have me intrigued. I'm looking at it. I haven't looked it up yet. Tell us about it.
Elderwood Academy boxes that I've seen, they're Spellbook Game Boxes. You actually see them in Acquisitions Incorporated.
Are these the ones where they have their dice and stuff in it?
Yeah, it's a book.
Oh,
It is actually a leather-bound book that they had the Acquisitions Incorporated logo on embossed on it. You open it up and it has a metal shield. I never understood what the metal shield was for. It's for magnetic pieces. It's for writing notes on that you can wipe off. It's for stuff that you just want to use it for. From what the guy told me, like, he just grinned when I saw him at a convention. He's like, it's for whatever you want. We did put it in there for one reason, but in the testing groups, we saw people were using them for all sorts of reasons.
It looks like a mirror.
Yeah, you can get it in different colors. You could stand the book up and use magnets to hold your sheet up. Or hold important things up. It's however you want to use it. But more importantly, if you're one of those people that you like the action cards or the spell cards, or you want to use this for Magic the Gathering, you can get different versions of the inside of the book. You can get the basic tray style. It has a little dice tray that comes out, or you can roll inside the book itself. You can use the deck style, which has rooms for cards, tokens, dice. And then you can get the extended spellbook, which holds a total of 100 sleeved cards. So after you put them in their sheet protectors, and tokens, a pen, marker, a little spot for that. That's where he showed me writing on the metal plate. And it just makes sense to have something there personalized. There's dozens of images, combinations that you could choose for the front, different materials to make it out of. And of course, with certain combinations, it is more expensive. Now, this is one of the more expensive gifts. As I said, you've got the inexpensive ones, and then you have that once in a while honey. This once in a while honey would make a good Christmas present. It would make a grand anniversary present.
There you go.
It takes a lot of thought, because of course you don't want to, what shapes do you like, dear? I've done tricks where I'm like, hun, look at these images that I found on the internet. What do you think? And I'm getting her something customized. She goes, they're all the same style. Are you getting me something that has an image on it? And I'm like, no. It's $105 base, but it's built out of good wood. It's built out of solid, thick leather. It's going to last you a long time. And it has one of those really cool latching hooks on the side that hold the book. And when you look at it like a book, the way that they have the wood grain looks like pages. You can put it on the shelf with all of your other D&D books, and it comes with a little foam insert so that your dice isn't actually rattling around. Worth it, in my opinion. Absolutely worth it. The
Acquisitions Inc. ones that they showed, that was 2 years ago?
Yeah, they're still using them.
Yeah, those were pretty sweet. Yeah, I've seen them. When they first unveiled them, they actually showed them off a little bit. It was pretty cool, for sure. For sure.
But definitely check out Elderwood. Like I said, they started right around 105. But it's one of those things that I always say, get it customized. That's the whole point of it. Don't try, in my opinion, as a gift, don't try to save money and just get a basic one. Those are cool, but the whole point of these is for the little extra money. This is going to be something that no one is going to get rid of. And even if it starts to bend and wear, it'll look like a real old book, which is amazing. But,
for sure.
Yeah, that is our top 10. And I think that's a really good selection to have for Christmas. You've got some inexpensive stuff, some quick grabs, PDFs, paperbacks, which are amazing because they're not heavy and they don't take up much shelving room. But, Wizards of the Coast this year has rocked for them. I think since Yawning Portal, I have not stopped being excited.
Yawning Portal is pretty good.
The thing, it brought so many of the best Eberron campaigns I've ever played back to my brain, and I was just like, ooh.
I'm excited to use Sunless Citadel. I'm using that to start my homebrew campaign coming up in the next few weeks. So I can't wait. I've never run Sunless Citadel, so I'm going to twist it. It's not going to be Sunless Citadel when I'm done, but because I don't usually run modules verbatim. I usually take them and mold them into my homebrew world to make them fit. And so that's what I'm going to be doing with Sunless Citadel.
Excellent. I'm super excited about that. But all in all, I think that the top 10 is a good gift list just to have throughout the year. It also gives you ideas on what to look for future gifts. So, with that being said, what brought you to role-playing? And I kind of want to I want to hear you talk about it, and I want to talk about it, but what is the appealing thing about this hobby? And we're going to throw it over to our Facebook group after this, in between episodes, and I want to hear what people say.
So that's a two-part question. The thing that started my journey was an older guy who was a friend of the family was talking about riffs. He was talking about all the types of characters you could make. And like I said, I was 12. And the idea of these off-the-world, like out-of-this-world characters, from cybernetics to superheroes to anything you could think of, was amazing to me. And the fact that I could play a character like that and not be stuck within the bounds of, like, rules. You know, I mean, you have rules in an RPG, but it's not like a video game where you can only do certain stuff. And back then, video games, for the most part, were just left to right. You didn't have a lot of 3D games. You know, you had a couple, but not a ton. And so to me, that's what it was. It was the fact that I could do anything I wanted. So that really appealed to me at the start. Nowadays, because my style's evolved over the years, it's the collaborative storytelling. I tend to prefer epic games and campaigns over, you know, little grittier campaigns. So for me, it's just the collaborative storytelling, if I can say that. It's even as a dungeon master, not knowing what's coming up, you know, whether my players throw a hook and we go in a completely different direction, you know, whereas that's different than other mediums. Like if I'm watching a movie, a lot of times I can predict what's going to happen. Or if it's a comic book or whatever, you can kind of tell where the story's going. Whereas with a role-playing game, you feel like you know where it's going, and then one person's decision throws it completely off. Or a couple bad dice rolls could change the story by elimination of a character. Just so many different things you can do, and that's my biggest appeal to it, I feel.
Yeah, the limitless variables.
Yes.
I think on another note of that, a good way to word it as well is that a DM is like an artist, and the players are his paint. And some pictures are black and white and boring because, you know, he doesn't have very good paint to use. Some of them are vibrant with colors and expand to an immersive world. To expand on that idea, I think what makes D&D so unpredictable and what makes the collaborative storytelling effort is that when we watch a movie or when we read a book, we are in the third person, watching and reading. As a DM, you're the one responding to the players. If this were physics, it would be cause and effect. You know, they're the cause, you're the effect a lot of the times. So it's much more interactive, but when it becomes interactive, that third person view, even if the DM is in a narrator standpoint, the walls of that start to break down, because now you've got players who aren't doing what they're doing to progress the plot, or they're not doing what they're doing because they read it in a book. When you're playing a character, you think about, what does my character feel? What are their opinions? What are their goals? Sure, you might go, hey, let's go do that mission because that's clearly the adventure hook. Let's kill these goblins. But all of the decisions along the way, you sit there and go, my character wouldn't do that. I would. My character wouldn't do that. And once you start thinking through the eyes of the characters, the story is told through the eyes of the characters and their actions, which makes it unpredictable. You cannot sit at any table and go, 2 barbarians, a paladin, and a rogue. I know exactly what kind of campaign this is going to be, because you don't.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, what brought me into role-playing was actually Heroes Quest, and I want to thank Heroes Quest for that, because my dad used it as a tool. I played Pool of Radiance on the regular Nintendo and went, nope, D&D's stupid, because I didn't understand it, which Pool of Radiance on the regular Nintendo was terrible. It was like a weird maze game that you paneled to 2 images of the corridors, and then things would pop up, and you'd have to... It was bad representation of it. But Heroes Quest got me into it, and what he did was he put masking tape on all the rooms and named them town buildings. And he said, when we're in the dungeon, it's the dungeon. When we're not in the dungeon, this is the town. And he incorporated role-playing into Heroes Quest. Simple game system, got me into role-playing, and then he taught me D&D, and that was at the age of 9 or 10. I'm actually thinking about doing the same thing with my son when he's ready, is bring out Heroes Quest and play Heroes Quest, but with role-playing. And then, once I was presented again with D&D, it made sense. The logic behind Heroes Quest made D&D... higher armor. I'm a wizard, I can't wear that. You know, it all kind of pans in. The monsters are going to try to kill me. This is not a nice game. It does not want to be nice to you. But yeah, it's absolutely amazing. What about you? Facebook, the people who are listening to the podcast, and even the people on YouTube or who hook up through our Twitter, what got you into role-playing? What aspect was it that attracted to you? Because I'd love to go over some of the responses on our second episode. All right, well, I think we've hit our hour limit for the first episode. So we're going to go ahead and do some shout-outs. Juice, why don't you give us a shout-out, and then I'll follow suit.
Oh, gosh, who am I shouting out? Myself?
Yes. You can shout at me if you want.
I was like, whoa, you're putting me on the spot. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I am Juce. I have a YouTube channel called Master the Game. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. I have a page as well as a group. The group is Master the Game. And the difference is on the page, I post pretty general things. In the group, I post discussion topics and try to interact with you guys and dig deeper. I try to get to know you guys, what you're into, and give you a chance to get to know me a little better. As you can also find us on the Fathers of Tabletop Facebook page, Twitter, YouTube as well. So, yeah, there you go.
What differs your channel from other channels about role-playing games? Because I thought at first, Juice is making a new channel. This is going to be him hosting and playing games. But nay, it's actually a different type of channel.
Yeah, so I had a YouTube channel. It's still out there. However, it's not the direction I felt I wanted to go moving forward. You know, that one used to be general D&D, RPG topics. I talked about Palladium books, Dragon Age, all sorts of different games. And Dragon Age, Fantasy Age, so on and so forth. This one, for now, is very focused. It's very much optimization, both from a player standpoint, a game master standpoint, dungeon master. Right now, it's going to be D&D. Depending on what game I'm playing, 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, I will evolve it based on that. But this is strictly teaching people how to optimize and handle certain things within the confines of the game. It's mastering the game, if you will.
Right. Absolutely. So my name's Jarl of Goats. You guys have probably seen my channel. Like I said, this has always been something, and I'm super thankful for Juice for bringing this dream to life, because I've always wanted to do a podcast where having kids, being nerds, and trying to work, play, and raise kids and how that affects it. I definitely wanted to host one for a long time, and Juice made that possible. He kind of gave me the push, like, you should do it, man. So if you see my channel, you know that I do a lot of role-playing games on there. I'm doing Stars Without Number now, Dungeons and Dragons, as well as Fantasy Wars. My channel's more of a variety channel, though. I do video game plays as well as role-playing games, because I am a gamer all the way around, 360. I have my degree in game development. It's my passion, and I love it all. But I figured that Fathers of Tabletop would give us more of a chance to connect on tabletop gaming in general. And in the future, I will be posting videos that aren't just role-playing games. I'm also a board game freak. I have an entire wall dedicated to board games. So Juice and I will definitely be working on projects to give variety to the show, so that when you come and you hear our podcast, you're definitely going to hear things that you might not find in a one-stop shop anywhere else. But until next time, this is us from Fathers of Tabletop, wishing you happy holidays, and take a look at those items online. I'm going to put links down in the description below for YouTube as well as SoundCloud. And if you have any questions, hit us up on the Facebook page. Bye-bye.
Bye.